Hello, I hope you are doing well and have practiced the last session's techniques so that finally you have decided to start the second session. So let's talk about the software itself, and here we're gonna start from selecting tool. Let me show it to you. As you can see, here is select and its related shortcut is Ctrl+1. Supposing that you are using another command, you can press Ctrl+1 to just switch to selecting mode. And the point here is that, just like AutoCAD, if you press a space or the cancel button, the selecting mode would not be enabled. So we can use Ctrl+1. Actually, you got several ways to enable selecting mode. That one of them is here, as I mentioned before. That from here you can enable the selecting mode. The another approach is in the right side of the scene. You can click on this, or you can right click on one of the items. Check this out, right click and select. So you got three ways. The first one is found in Home tab. Check this out. Select, and the second way is found in right side of the screen, and the third way is right click. Check this out, right click and then select, for example basement. So we can use either of these three ways. Normally in Navisworks dragging is not available, as you can see, and you are just able to select a single object. Check this out, I can select only single objects, not dragging. But for being able to draw in box, I open the menu of select and I enable select box. After that, we will able to drag. Check this out. So right now, as you can see, keeping unavailable selecting box is nonsense, since clicking and dragging is available in all of the softwares. Anyway, the reason is not related to us, but good news here is that when you are clicking, you can hold the space. After that, you will be able to select box. Check this out by clicking and holding down the space. So if you want to use select box, you can click and then hold down a space button. Right now, check this out. Right now, as you can see, selecting mode is enabled, but here if I hold down a space, select box option would be enabled, and then if I release a space, it will be disabled automatically. So you can drag by holding down the space. And those who have been working with AutoCAD may have some problems in selecting the objects, since they should know some techniques to select the objects which are within the window boundary. So to do this, we should activate the window crossing. And to do this, we should hold down Shift and Spacebar and click drag to activate the crossing window, selecting objects that are within and those that touch the window boundary. Let's have a try. First time I do not hold down Shift. Check this out, some of the windows are not selected. But this time, if I hold down a Spacebar and Shift both, let's check it out. Right now, if we hold down Shift and a Spacebar and click and drag to activate the crossing window, then we can select the objects that are within and those that touch the window boundary. But note that if you only hold down Shift and after that click on some of the objects, let me give you an example, check this out, then all of the objects will be selected. So if you wanted to select all of the objects, you can hold down Shift and then select one of the objects. So this was another technique that you can use in your project. Supposing that you have selected one of the objects, for example here in this window, and then if you wanted to add another selected object, you can hold down Control. So hold down Control for selecting and deselecting the objects. For example, this window is deselected, I click on it. Meanwhile, I'm holding down the Control. So by holding down Control, we can add or remove objects from the selected elements. In the continuation, as you can see, we got some tools which are used for selecting, and I'm gonna explain the most important of them, not all of them, since they are not useful, you know, and there are so many tools, and I don't want to waste my time. However, they are not commonly used, and they are so simple that if you work with Navisworks for a time, you will be able to work with all of the tools. I mean, even the tools which are not mentioned in the video. So just need to be exposed. Anyway, here we got an item. As you can see, select all. that you can select all of the objects by this way, it is clear, or select none, it is clear too. The another option is invert selection. For example, I hold down shift and a space, then I drag, I select these items. Then after that, if I click on invert selection, it deselects all selected items and selects all unselected items. Actually, the selection process will be switched back. In the continuation, I'm gonna mention the most useful items, so watch them carefully. Suppose that I'm gonna select a specific type of window. Actually, we got such a tool in other softwares like select similar or filter. For example, in Revit we got select all instances, which is used to select the similar types. But here the similar option is select same, as you can see. And in the menu, as you can see, we got some options that we can specify the items which one to select. For example, same name, same type, same transform, same element ID, or Revit type. But the most commonly used items here are same name and same type. Actually, same type is just like the select all instances in Revit, that in the process all of the similar types would be selected. For example, if I select this wall, then I click on same type, then the another walls which are similar to the selected wall will be selected. And right now, as you can see, the walls which are similar in type are selected. But in continue, I will talk about hide and unhide elements. However, you can observe the process and learn and select name. The objects which are similar in name will be selected. For example, all of the walls. However, this option cannot help us in this project, so that the most commonly used option here is same type, while others are rarely used. For example, select same Revit type. It acts like same type, but I recommend you to use same type. Well done. In continuation, suppose that I have selected all of the windows which are the same in type, in this way for example. But should I do this process in each time? But can I save a preset selection of the objects? Of course I can. Check this out, save selection. It opens the sets window and saves the current selection as a selection set. And as Navis is an analysis software, selecting the objects is a very important point. So I click on save selection. After that, a panel or palette will be opened automatically. After that, I name the set, for example, WinWD1. Then in the continue, I select another type. Then I select the same type. After that, I save the selection by this way. Then I assign a name for the set. For example, WD2. And so on. For example, I select one of the walls. Then same type. After that, save selection. Then I assign the name of the set. For example, wall A. And after that, if I click on these sets, I can have access to the selection or the selected objects. And if you are carrying out the project in a team, here you can create a new folder. For example, I assign the name Karami. Then I can move the selection sets into the folder. By this way, I select my selection sets and I move them to the folder. Since each member of the group may have different specific save selections, that they can organize them in their folders. Or in other words, you can categorize your save selection sets. And actually, we do not have to use select same if we want to create a save selection set. For example, I can select some objects manually. For example, these 4 windows. After that, I create a selection set to just keep it as a selection set. So using select same or not does not matter. In continue, if the palette of sets was closed in this way, how do we can access to the sets? And also selection tree. I'm not sure if I have told you or not. If it was closed, here we can return the selection tree by this way. And if you want to return your selection sets, here if you click on the menu of sets, check this out. After that, if you click on manage sets, then the set window will be opened. As you can see, the set window is appeared and it enables you to select your sets. So just click on set, then click on manage sets. After that, the sets window would be appeared. And right now, let me say something in the parenthesis, which is about the arrangement of the windows. For example, in Continue, I arrange the windows of selection tree and sets. In Navisworks, you got some capabilities. Here, if I click on the head of the window of selection tree, as you can see, some buttons are appeared, as you can see. If I drag it here, check this out, then it will be attached to the corner. Or if I drag it to the up, check this out, or to the left side again, by just clicking on the head of the window, you can choose where to position them in a very smart way, that by these grips or buttons, you can specify a position for the window and then position them. So this was the point about the arrangement of the windows. The next point is about pin, as you can see, that if I hold the mouse on it, as you can see, auto hide. Here if I click on auto hide, then the windows will be hidden, as you can see. Check this out. I mean, by unpinning these windows, they will be hidden. And then if you want to have access to them, you should click on them again. Check this out. But if I pin it, it would be fixed on this screen. So by this way, you can choose to show them or hide them, pin or unpin. Well done. Let's talk about visibility tab. But before talking about the visibility, let me import or attach the instruction file and also the installation. Since in Continue, I want to show you some other details, then there would be no difficulties. So let me append them. Very well. So let's talk about visibility. Here, as you can see, we got some options. Hide. For example, if I select one of the objects like wall, then I'm able to hide it. Or for example, another objects like this, you can hide them, and you got an option named unhide all that reveals all hidden items in the scene. So just click on it to unhide the hidden objects, and its shortcut is Ctrl+H. For example, select one of the objects, then press Ctrl+H, then if you press Ctrl+H again, it will be unhidden. Look, I select Ctrl+H, check this out, well done. Again I press Ctrl+H, the hidden items will be revealed. Let me try one more time. For example, I select the roof, then I hide it, Ctrl+H, check it out. Then again if I press Ctrl+H, it will be revealed. I mean the last objects which was hidden will be revealed. So for example, if I hide the roof, Ctrl+H, by this way. Then in Continue I select another object to hide it. For example, this one, I press Ctrl+H. Then if I press Ctrl+H again, as you can see, the recent object which was hidden will be unhidden actually. So the revealing process will be applied on the recent process, not all of the objects. But what are the functions of hiding items? Firstly, for example, you can, for example, in the selection sets, I select the windows and then I hide them all. So at first you can go to your selection sets and then just hide your desired objects. Or even for example, you can select one of your files and then hide it. Check this out. So you can select whatever you want from the selection sets or selection tree and then hide them. And you can use unhide all for revealing them. Check this out. But you may be familiar with isolate elements actually in Revit, that it would keep a specific object and hides others. Here we got the same tool or option which is hide unselected. Here as you can see, it hides all unselected items, that you can hide all items except those currently selected. For example, I want to isolate the mechanical installation. I select it, then I click on hide unselected items. Then here we can check the mechanical installations. Check this out, and after that I can click on hide all in a very simple process. Well done. So we are done with the tools in visibility tab that you can use in your projects. However, we got another option named require, which is not commonly used, and in continue we got another option named unrequire all, that I want to give you a short explanation about these two tools. Actually, when we are walking, moving, navigating in the scene, for example like this, as you can see, Navis would convert some of the heavy objects like a chair, which is modeled and detailed, to a box, so that we will see a box instead of a chair in our project, but temporarily, so that we can navigate in the scene smoothly. So we can use require for your selected items to remain visible during interactive navigation. Actually, culling lets you navigate and manipulate large and complex scenes at interactive rates by intelligently hiding less important objects as you work, so that you can use require to make sure that the objects are always rendered during interactive navigation in the scene. And you know, it is not commonly used actually. Anyway, let's talk about viewpoint right now. In the future sessions, we will talk about other tools. So let's talk about viewpoint. As you can see, the second tab. Actually, in viewpoint, we're gonna learn that how we can navigate in the scene in Navisworks. And as you remember from the first session, that one of the functions of the Navis, which was mentioned in this first session, is that Navisworks enables us to navigate and move in the project because it reduces the largeness and complexity of the scene so that we can simply navigate in the scene. For example, if we want to navigate in the scene of this project in Revit, it wouldn't be that much simple. So that, as I told you before, Navis enables us to move and navigate in the scene right here very easily. So let's see what we got here in the tab. Here, as you can see, we got some tools in viewpoint and navigate. However, we can also find them at the right side of the scene. For example, the first one them is pan, that it activates the pan tool and moves the view parallel to the screen. However, the pan tool is available on the steering wheels, so by just pressing the wheel of the mouse, we can use pan. The next one is zoom tool, which is a set of navigation tools for increasing or decreasing the magnification of the current view of the model. For example, zoom window, and they are found in the option bar in the right of the scene. Check this out. You can focus on a specific object, or for example in zoom, standard click or drag zoom. Check this out, as I told you before, by clicking and dragging. The next one is zoom selected, which it zooms in and out to show the selected geometry. For example, you can select a specific object. Actually, I have selected the standard zoom, so I'm not able to select. So right now, how should I select an object? If you wanted to select an object without cancelling the current command, you can use right click. I want you to have this technique in your mind. Suppose that you are using a tool, for example like pan, zoom or orbit. Then you want to select an object. Meanwhile, you don't want to cancel the selected command. You can use right click. Check this out. The zoom tool is still selected and the object is selected too. After that, I click on zoom selected. You can see its shortcut, which is page up and page down. Then it zooms in to show the selected geometry. And the next tool is zoom all, as you can see. Actually, zoom all acts samely as zoom extent in Revit. That it zooms out to show the whole scene. So let's check it out and then show the whole scene. And right now, as you can see here, we got some 2D objects like the levels, which is imported from Revit. And sometimes you may just lost your project in a way that you can't find your model or geometry in the scene. Like this, as you can see, in this condition, you can click on zoom all. After that, you can have access to your model geometry and then carry out your project by this way. And the next tool is orbit. As you can see, that it moves the camera around the focal point of the model. And actually, orbit is a set of navigation tools for rotating the model around a pivot point while the view remains fixed, and its shortcut is shift and scroll. It means that you hold down the shift and then click on the scroll of the mouse. By this way, the orbit tool will be activated. But let's check the other options. In the set of orbit, we got orbit, free orbit and constrained orbit. The first of them is orbit, which moves the camera around the focal point of the model, and the up direction is always maintained and no camera rolling is possible. But in free orbit, rotates the model around the focal point in any direction. I mean, here the up direction is not maintained, while in orbit the up direction is always maintained. So in this condition, if you just wanted to return it to its default mode or direction, activate the orbit tool, and then in your first action the direction will be fixed. Check this out. And actually, in my account, free orbit is not that much functional or useful, but rotating the model in any direction. And the third option is free orbit, it is constrained orbit. It spins the model around the up vector as though the model is sitting on a turntable and the up direction is always maintained. Check this out. Right now, as you can see, it seems that the model is sitting on a turntable, while in the tool of orbit, it moves the camera around the focal point of the model. But in constrained orbit, it spins the model around the up vector as though the model is sitting on a turntable. And in the next session, I will give you a technique to make your model spins around. And in continue, I want to give you some points about the standard orbit, and then we'll talk about the next item. Actually, here the question is, the camera is rotating around what? And actually, this is a controversial question in all of the softwares, but actually here when you use orbit, or moving the camera around, Navis would show you the pivot point in a green shape, which shows that the model is moving around a pivot point. But how should I modify or change the pivot point? First of all, Navisworks is a smart software. Here, as you can see, the pivot point is specified. Right now, if I zoom in, and after that I stop, as you can see, the position of the pivot point is changed. Then you may want to change the position again. But before that, you should know that if you want to specify the position of pivot point, before that you should select an object. And right now, as I don't want to cancel the command of orbit, meanwhile, select an object. What should I use? Excellent. Right click. So I right click to select the object by this way. So right now, if you select an object while using orbit tool, the pivot point would not be specified automatically anymore because the object is set as the pivot point. However, we can rely on the artificial intelligence of the Navisworks. As you can see, the pivot point is changing its position while we are orbiting in a way that it is not necessary to specify the position of the pivot point each time. But if you wanted to change the pivot point, you can just select an object while using orbit command, and then the object will be your pivot point. And the next tool is look around, which it looks around the scene from the current camera location. Right now, in continue, in order to just enliven the process of learning, I want to open another project, and the name of the new project is Flower Race. That is one of my projects that I have done before, and right now I want to carry on the video in this project. So let me open it. So just wait for a second to open the project by this way, and after that we're gonna talk about look around, which are a set of navigation tools for rotating the current view vertically and horizontally. Anyway, right now here, as you can see, we got a commercial building here, nearly 77,000 meters, that we were in charge of building information management, or BIM. Whatever, let's talk about look around. Here, if I open its menu, we got 3 options in it, as you can see. Actually, look around looks around the scene from the current camera location. Check this out. As you can see, your position is fixed, but the building is rotating. The next one is look at. Then it looks at a particular point in the scene. The camera moves to align with the point. So in look at, if you select an object, then the camera moves to align with that object. For example, I select this wall. Check this out. As the name of the tool shows, that look at, that you can use it in your projects. And the third one is focus, which looks at a particular point in the scene. The camera stays where it is. Check this out. If I select an object, and as you can see, the action is nothing special. Here, if I try again, look, the selected object will be positioned at the center of the scene. And this is one of those tools that is not commonly used. Very well, right now let's talk about walk. That I can say that this is one of the most functional and useful tools here. Among all of the tools in the navigation in Navis, we can mention the walk as the most important one. Here, as you can see, we got walk and fly tools that are a set of navigation tools for moving around the model and controlling realism settings. Actually, fly tool moves through a model like in a flight simulator, so that you should hold down the left button of the mouse and then move your mouse. Then you can move like a flight in your scene. Check this out. As you can see, it moves through a model like in a flight simulator. And actually this tool is not available in the 2D workspace by this way, so we can move around. And the next item is walk, that moves through a model as if you were walking through it. Check it out. As you can see, I'm walking. But how does it work? Same as flying. Hold down left button of the mouse. So again, hold down the left button of your mouse. Check this out. So again, I hold down the left button of the mouse. Then if I move the mouse forward, as you can see, I'm walking. And if I move it backward, check this out. And if you wanted to move left and right, you can move your mouse to both left and right by this way, just like walking. And even you can turn left and right while moving forward or backward. Actually, you should practice these items. And actually, you can look up and down by steering the scroll of the mouse. So suppose that you're in front of an apartment or a building. You can scroll up to look up, and you can scroll down to look at the bottom of the building. But if you hold down Control, you can go upward or you can fly actually. Check this out. I'm holding Control down and then clicking and dragging. If I drag forward, then it moves upward. But if I move the mouse backward, it will be moves down. And you may have experienced this in games. Well done, we're finished with these tools. I mean the navigation tools. But if you wanted to increase the speed of your movement, you can hold Shift. Check this out. You can use Shift for the acceleration. However, you can maximize the speed of your movement by movement of the mouse. But you can hold down Shift to accelerate the speed of your movement. And right here, if you open the navigate, you can modify the value of linear speed or speed of motion, and right now the value is 12 meters per second. I think the value is okay, but if you wanted to accelerate the speed, you can hold down Shift. So the default value is a standard value and is okay. And another one is angular speed. It is used when you want to move to left and right. But all in all, I recommend you to not to edit these values. Well done. Let's talk about the most interesting part of the session, which is third person. Actually, this function allows you to navigate scene from a third person perspective. That if you press Ctrl T, he would appear. Check this out. When a third person is activated, you will be able to see an avatar, which is a representation of yourself within the 3D model. Using third person is a connection with collision and gravity makes this a very powerful function, allowing you to visualize exactly how a person would interact with an intended design, just like games that you can choose your view. And after that, you can use it to walk around the scene. But right now, as you can see, the third person right now is not on the ground, but we can move down to walk on the ground. And you can find some tools in the realism panel that if you click on realism, check this out, there are 4: collision, gravity, third person and crouch. However, you can use Ctrl T as well. Anyway, let's talk about its tools. Collision, for example. Here we got collision, gravity and crouch. Actually, gravity gives you weight. As such, you will pull downwards whilst walking through the scene. Check this out. We are pulled downward and then we can walk in the scene by this way as I'm moving in the scene. Right now, let's just navigate in the scene by this way. I recommend you to practice these. And then in continue, I will move to the entrance of the building. By this way, first of all, I pass these stairs, then I go on. Well done. By this way. Note that while you were walking, you can use pan to move left and right by this way. Check this out. Move to left and right by using pan. So this was gravity that gives us weight. But what is collision? This function defines you as a collision volume, a 3D object that can navigate around and interact with the model, obeying certain physical rules that confine you within the model itself. So we can't pass through other objects, because we have a mass and as such, cannot pass through other objects, points or lines in the scene, as I showed you. So right now, if I uncheck or deselect collision, then we can pass through other objects and we are not defined as a collision volume anymore by this way. But right now, if I want to move upwards, what should I do? As we used pan for moving left and right as by this way. But if I move it upward, then I will go higher levels, check this out, and I'm passing through the ceiling and roof, because collision is not activated. And you know, this is used for when we want to analyze the model geometry or just want to get out from the model geometry. So right now, if I activate collision function, then it defines us as a collision volume and we cannot pass through other objects since we got mass. And right now, as you can see, both gravity and collisions are deactivated. But right now, if I want to activate gravity, you will see that gravity would only works in connection with collision. As you can see on the screen that both collision and gravity are activated, since gravity only works in connection with collision. But in continue, if I deactivate gravity, you will see that the collision is still activated. But it is impossible to activate gravity without having collision activated. So that if I uncheck collision, gravity would be deactivated following that. In other words, we can use collision by its own, while gravity only works in connection with collision. The gravity is dependent to collision. And right now in continue, let me go upstairs. But before that, I should turn right, but the wall will cover the view. So if I want to have the view, at first I should move forward by this way. Then I turn right by this way. You know, we should practice. Then you will be mastered. Anyway. Right now, as you can see, collision is deselected, so we can pass through objects. Check this out. We don't have a mass by this way. Check this out. We can through. But right now, if I turn on gravity and following that, collision would be activated too. So as soon as I turn on gravity, collision would be activated too. So right now we can go upstairs by this way, since collision and gravity are activated both. Then I turn left. Check this out. Then we can go on the next level, navigating the floors by this way. Again, I go upstairs. Well done. You know, this is simple, we just need to practice. And the points were that if collision is off, we can pass through objects like walls or roofs, stairs and others. But if we turn on gravity, collision would be activated too, so that we can navigate in the scene like a human being. But right now, if I want to just get out from the model geometry, what should I do? Firstly, I turn off collision. Then I move downward by this way. But before that, let me give you another example. Supposing that we are within the walls or within the floors or roofs, and after that I want to activate collision. So what would be the result? Let's check it out. I turn on collision. Check this out. It turned red. This means that the avatar is stuck in something and cannot get rid of it. So as soon as you pass the avatar or the person through the object, the color would be changed, and after that you can walk on the floor. Okay, and there are some times that the color of the character would be transparent. This means that you're encountering to the wall or something, for example a wall or whatever. So this makes it impossible for the camera to produce a great view from your character. And here, as you can see, the objects like walls does not let the camera to show the character or third person by this way. So by this way here there are some graphical images from the third person and the actions. I disable collision, then I move downwards by this way, and right now I'm in the parking, and right now I'm gonna show you something which is crouch by this way. So first of all I turn on gravity, then I move forward by this way, and then in the continue I'm gonna show you the ramp. Let me see, by this way. And right now I should disable collision to move up levels. Check this out by this way. Then after moving I turn on gravity, so I move downward, and right now I can walk on the floor. By this way I navigate on the floor like this way. Check this out in a very simple way. Very well. In continue, let's talk about the tool of crouch that I wanted to explain it. Actually I was looking for the ramp to explain the tool better actually, so give me a second. So as we are navigating in the scene, let me find the ramp. So just let me pause the video to find the ramp. After that we will continue the video. Well done, I have found it. And right now I want to explain crouch. Right now crouch is disabled. Right now as we are walking, we may encounter an object that are too low to walk under. So this function enables us to crouch under any such objects. And right now as you can see, I'm using pan, which are high to walk under. But in the objects which are too low to walk under, I turn on crouch. With crouching activated, you will automatically crouch under any objects that you cannot walk under at your specified height, thereby not impeding your navigation around the model. And as you watch, it passes through the object. In continue, let me try again. Let's check it out again. Look. As you can see, the character automatically crouch under any objects that he cannot walk under at his specified height. Right now I'm gonna try again and show you the objects that the character can walk under. So I keep crouch enabled, then I move it to left by using pan. And right now as you can see, he hasn't crouched yet since the height is too low. So as we are moving to left, so as the height maximized, then crouching will be activated. Check this out. But right now if I move it to right, you will see the extent of crouching by this way, that in very low heights he will stand up. I'm gonna show you he is not able to crouch to walk under any objects. And right now as I'm moving to left, let me move backward by this way. Then again I try by this way. As you can see, he's crouching, and if I move to left, he will stand up gradually by this way. So when you encounter objects that are too low to walk under, crouch enables you to crouch under any such objects. And with crouching activated, you will automatically crouch under any objects that you cannot walk under at your specified height. Well done. In continue, I'm gonna show you another functional item. Actually, while navigating in the scene, so let me open one of my projects. Wait for a second, please. As you know, we can present the sessions, the installations, architectural, structural projects, among other people, by using Walk. For example, I'm appending the installation project by this way. And after that, I append the structural file. Then in continue, I'm gonna navigate in the project, for example, in the stairs, A-cells, floors, and you will see that not only you can present a virtual model of your project to your employer, but also it will be an interesting time actually. And right now, as you can see, collision is deactivated since I'm passing through objects. Anyway, I turn on gravity. Check this out. Supposing that you are presenting this scene for your employer by this way. After that, you may want to display or show the installation behind the roof or ceiling. So I right click, then I select the roof or ceiling, then I hide it. Check this out. It is great. Now this is very great in presenting your project in a way that you can attract your employer's attention. Check this out. Again, I press Ctrl H to unhide the ceiling. Then I continue navigating in the scene. Then I check other rooms, for example. Then again I right click, select. I press Ctrl H to hide the ceiling, or here for example. Ctrl H to show the installation. So by this way you can present the project in detail, so that after completing your project, you can present it again among your clients or employers by this way. And continue, I keep on going and navigating in the scene, or even for example the wall I selected and then I unhide it. You can display its layers, not installation. In other words, you can display whatever you want or what does exist in your project. So we saw that walking as a tool in Navis has got an important role, since it allows us to visualize exactly how a person would interact with the intended design. And we can customize settings such as avatar selection, dimension and positioning for the current viewport or a global option. Here I right click viewpoint and edit current viewpoint, and right now if you customize your viewpoint, all of the modifications only will be applied on this file. However, we can set some settings or modifications in order to apply them on the entire projects. But here if you right click, then viewpoint, edit current viewpoint by this way. Here in collision you got a setting as you can see. However, here we got other options, but they are not that much functional, such as horizontal and vertical offsets, some settings which are related to the camera, or the position of the camera, or the speed that I mentioned before. But at this session I'm gonna talk about the most functional options to be able to use this software in building information management structure. I click on setting in collision. Here we got some items which are repetitive, like auto crouch, gravity or collision. And then here in third person you can modify your avatar. For example, you can choose office female. Let's check it out by this way. Again, viewpoint, edit current viewpoint. Then I click on collision setting. Then in continue I can choose, for example, protective clothing. Then we will have the firefighter, check this out. And actually other important points here in the settings of collision. So again, let me open avatar list. For example, I choose human 1. Then in the viewer we got radius. By this way you can make your avatar or character slim or fat. For example, I enter 1, check this out. It fattens the character or avatar. However, it is not that much functional, but just for customizing the settings of dimensions of your avatar. Again, I specify construction worker and not 0.3 for radius. And here we got height, that you can increase the value of height if you don't want to walk under the objects, but the default value here is 1.8 that I have changed it to 2 meters. And in continue we got eye offset, and then in continue addition to avatar we got angle and distance, that you'd better to know these options. I click on OK. Actually, distance controls the distance between the character or avatar and the camera. But we can increase the value, so I open the collision setting again. distance, which is 3 meters, which shows the distance between the camera and the avatar. Here if I specify 5 meters, then you will be able to see his feet, because the distance has been maximized and the view of the camera is widened. And in continue, you can modify the value of angle, but before modifying angle, let me move out from the model geometry. Let me check. I disable collision at first, then I move out, for example here, then I activate gravity in order to move downwards. Wait for a second, by this way. After that, I'm going to talk about angle. Actually, you can set a specific angle in order to just specify the position of the camera, which is filming the avatar. For example, I specify 30 degrees, then I click on OK. It depends on you. Let's check it out by this way. As you can see, you are watching the avatar from top. So till now we are finished with the VOC tools and its functions and also the settings. But one more item is left. And after that, you can take your time on practicing these items. So you should check all of the told items. Then create some examples for yourself. Or you can export your Revit files into Navis and then navigating and walking the scene. So in continue, let me explain the last topic for this session, and after that we will say goodbye. So let me open the project by this way. I select this to hide it, then I click on zoom all to find the scene or the model geometry actually by this way. Here as you can see, we got a Revit file which refers to the rendering part. And here I have put some ceiling lights, and as you can see, some of them are surrounding the pool. And right now we are observing this file or Revit file actually. At this part of the video, I'm gonna talk about render style in viewpoint tab and other items here we got. For example, here we got surfaces and lines. Surfaces turns the display of surface geometry on or off. And right now as you can see, we got the lines, not surfaces. And by clicking on line, we can turn the display of the line geometry on or off. However, you can control the display of text and points. And this makes sense when you import a file from AutoCAD, while Revit does not have point. So that as you can see, points and text are not available here. Well done. The next item is mode. The first one of them is full render, which displays geometry in full quality including materials, or visual style in Revit actually. We got wireframe as well, and hidden lines, that as you can see, colors are removed and the back lines are hidden too. And another option is shaded. And actually in shaded mode, the model is rendered with smooth shading and without textures. And in full render mode, the model is rendered with smooth shading including any materials that have been applied with the Autodesk rendering tool. So the differences between shaded and full render is that in shaded mode, the model is rendered without textures, but in full rendered we got textures. And right now as you can see, in shaded mode, the model is rendered with smooth shading. Well done, we are finished with the modes. But about lighting, here as you can see we got 4 options, and right now if I choose no lights, this option uses no lights. All geometry is rendered with flat color. Check this out. As you can see in the scene, lights are removed, and this mode switches off all lights and the scene is shaded with flat rendering, and the dimensions are hard to be recognized. The next option is headlight. As you can see, uses a light shining directly from the camera's location. In other words, this mode uses a single directional light located at the camera that always points in the same direction as the camera. So as I move around the scene, the headlight moves along with the camera, so that we got light in the scene. The next item, which is scene lights, uses just the lights specified in the original CAD file, and if no lights are available, 2 default opposing lights are used instead. While in headlight we got only one directional light, here we got 2, and the lights which have been brought from the native CAD file will be turned on. Right now we are using the headlight, but if I turn on the scene lights, however, scene lights comes with error in the version of 2021. So don't forget to save your project. So scene light uses the lights that have been brought through from the native CAD file, and if no lights are available, 2 default opposing lights are used instead. So in continue, let's see the changes. And I don't consider this as a proper lighting in my scene, since here we got a combination out of the lights from the native CAD file and also the 2 default opposing lights, and the last item is full lights. And this mode uses lights that have been defined with the Autodesk rendering tool. So this time the default opposing lights are turned off, and we can check the defined lights in the rendering tool so that we can analyze the lighting in our project. Check this out, and only the defined lights are on. So to wrap it up, which of the 4 lighting modes were the most functional actually? What do you think? Actually, one of them is headlight, that uses a single directional light located at the camera, and this is the error as I mentioned before. It occurs as I switch between lighting modes. Anyway, you can use headlight while you are carrying out your project, and as you know, it moves along with the camera and always points in the same direction as the camera. And you can use full light if you want to check your lighting in your project. In order to just analyze the lighting, that uses the lights that have been defined with the Autodesk rendering tool. And right now it's time to practice. And I want you to excuse me for the insisting and repetition, since it is very important to not to watch the videos in the manner that you watch movies or series, since after each session you need to practice and focus on the given items, and after learning the given items completely, you can go for the next parts and next sessions. See you in the next session.